The second F is forecast. Everyone hates this. Salespeople hate this. I have yet to meet anyone except accountants who like to forecast.
And even accountants don't like to forecast.
And even accountants don't like to forecast, right? So when we think about forecast, I want you to start thinking about it differently than you ever have before. And if you'd like to buy a book from a really awesome woman, her name is Debbie Mrazek. She's a really good friend of mine. The name of the book is The Field Guide to Sales. Here's why forecasting is important and critical to increasing revenue. What is your sales goal? When I ask salespeople that question, they say something like, well, Deb, I want to do $2 million this year. I follow up with, would that be $2 million by selling $1 million to 2 customers or to 20 customers who do $100,000 each? Clearly, that makes for 2 very different plans of attack.
Absolutely.
And when we think about forecasting, I think that we are so tied to the emotional ability to achieve what we forecast that we forget that the importance of forecasting is more about it driving your activity. So when we think about forecasting, if we are, I used accounting firms a minute ago, right? So if we're looking at 2 accounting firms, one of which wants to do 80% of their business during tax season and then kind of slide the rest of the year, take a couple of really nice vacations planned out by someone else, versus someone who would like to work with their client base every month, because what jazzes them up is actually the activity of like seeing people's businesses and how they run. Without forecasting like that, without knowing what you want it to look like, you're going to be going after the wrong people. Because even in sales itself, the customers, the prospects, the people we want to target to do $1 million a year are very different than the ones to target to do $100,000 a year. And part of that is about us. I will tell you that as a salesperson, my highest year in sales, the company I worked for measured everything in profit margin rather than revenue, mostly because that's how they wanted to pay us, because they could pay us, right, differently. We only got paid on profit. No one's doing bad deals. I did $984,000 of profit margin for the company. $500 at a time. My average sales order was $500. It's a lot of orders, right? The person who just beat me that year did 1.1. Not that I'm bitter. His average order size was $100,000.
Wow.
Now, he didn't beat me by much. He also had weeks where there was not an order in sight. That would have killed me. Like emotionally, I could not have done that. I'm not a whale hunter, I'm a fisherman. So you need to know yourself, and when you're thinking about forecasting, what do you want your business to look like, feel like? How is your experience with your clients? Are you looking for the right ones? If you're not thinking about forecasting from the perspective of that, not just a number, you're not going to know what to do. And we'll talk about results because that's the R in effort. And forecasting and results go hand in hand. But I want you to start to think about, where is your business going to come from, not just next month, but how about in 3 years? Someone asked me that question Monday night. Lynn, what's your business going to look like in 3 years? I was like, I have no idea. Can we talk about that in 3 years? She laughed at me, right? But if we're not thinking about next month, next quarter, next year, we can't do the activity we need to do today to make sure we're in the position to get there eventually. I was looking for a quote. I had never heard of this guy before. He's a Silicon Valley investment guy. Entrepreneurs can't forecast accurately because they are trying something fundamentally new. So they will often be laughably behind plan and on the brink of success.
Sounds like us.
I know.
And I started to think about it, and I actually changed what I'm going to talk about right now because of that quote. I played soccer when I was a kid. There was not a coach in the world that said, "So, Lynn, how many goals are you going to stop this game?" Tracy talked about Girl Scout cookies. No one ever says to a Girl Scout, "How many cookies are you going to sell when you go out selling today?" Right? Nobody talks about forecasting success when we're kids. I have a business degree. No one talked about it in college. And unless you're a salesperson, nobody talks to you about it at work. And even if you are a salesperson, they say, "So, what's your high, low, and commit for this month?" They don't even want to talk about how to make a good number. They just want you to give them a number. And then on your performance review, "You don't forecast very well." "Well, no one told me how." And I never practiced it. So of course we're awful. By the way, that's not an excuse not to forecast. That means that you need to forgive yourself when you're awful at it at the beginning. And start to think about forecasting and looking at what you're going to do so you can see how your business actually goes. How long does it take to convert a customer? It might be as easy as me walking over and buying a pair of earrings. Or it might be as difficult as for Michael when he was selling $100,000 deals, and it took an extraordinary amount of effort and a plan of attack, right? And what activities do I need to do along the way to close this big deal? Your business is going to be different, right? All of us sell differently, and who we target is going to be different. In my neighborhood, we have a lot of restaurants. Some of them want tourist trade. By the way, this winter has been awful, right? But they're looking for someone who's coming to make a memory. Versus Origins Coffee, which is the little coffee shop in Saranac Lake, where they want to see us every week. Sometimes I wonder if they would call to see if I was okay. No dirty chai this week, Lynn? Actually, I've met the UPS guy there. He can't get up my road. So what you want your business to look like is going to drive what activity you're going to do. And I have the 3 A's of forecasting. Activity. So don't just look at that number. Also look at what are you going to do to make that number? What do you have to do in order to get to the numbers you're looking for? And what I do is going to be driven by what my forecast shows me, right? If I believe I have a kind of idea, my activity from a sales perspective might be different. If you're really busy right now, and you're not selling anything to new people, you may not be really busy in 3 months. I'm just going to guess that landscaping is kind of rough in the winter in the capital region. Just a guess. I'm thinking not the busy time. But if we aren't looking right now at who is going to be our client at the very beginning when the ground starts to thaw and I can start to do work, and I'm not trying to get those customers lined up, and I don't try to start talking to customers until they've already started thinking about landscaping, it's too late, right? So when we look at our forecast, the activity that we do today needs to be driven by what we believe is going to happen, right? What we see happening. Achievement. We'll talk about results, I promise. We have to look at goals, forecast, and results. The trifecta, when they all line up. And actually, that's not true, because sometimes I forecast a crappy month. That's okay. Accurate forecasting doesn't mean I get my way. I like when it does, but it doesn't always mean that. Accountability. This is really hard when we own a business. I have a confession to make. I have an accountability partner. I have someone who I share my information with. She shares her information with me. We talk once a month. That's okay.